So I should say at this point, Nietzsche is not a determinist. He's not claiming that we are unfree, even as we consider ourselves to be free. This would be a misappropriation of Nietzsche. He's claiming basically that we're neither free in the sense that we thought we were free as autonomous individuals somehow extricated from nature, nor are we unfree, right? In a sense, what we do when we create values, beliefs, moral structures for ourselves is we, in a sense, add content to our ideas of ourselves, right? Through the force of our passionate belief, what we do is we create for ourselves some sort of consistent subjectivity, a character, if you will. So it's Aristotle and Nietzsche not so far off, at least in this situation, right? So what Nietzsche wants to claim is that the free will, right, is sort of a misappropriation. We're not free creatures, but nor are we unfree creatures. Really, it's a matter of strong and weak wills, right? If we are able to create for ourselves a situation where we can command ourselves and make our desires fairly consistent, right, then we can live a healthy, passionate life, right? But if we find ourselves in a situation where our desires, based on the values that we've created for ourselves that sort of structure our subjectivity, right, are in a state where they act in unhealthy ways, like an alcoholic or a heroin addict or a food addict or something along those lines, right, then we've got some problems, right? But, right, ultimately what Nietzsche wants to claim is that these judgments of good and evil, traditional philosophy has treated these judgments as though this didactic opposition between good and evil exists within the realm of truth, right? Evil is that which must be opposed, and good is that which must be furthered, right? There's goodness within us, it's good, and we usually apply the term good to ourselves, right? So, rather than existing within the realm of truth, ultimately what Nietzsche wants to claim is that good and evil are judgments, right? And what's more, right, this didactic opposition between good and evil sort of mirrors the problematic and unhealthy philosophical assumptions that we make of ourselves, right? If we place the word body next to evil, we find that its sensual desires, its sexual impulses, the senses, the deception that the senses perpetrate on us, philosophically by the common understanding, all falls under this category of evil, right? And the soul, empty abstractions, these ideas that have no real bearing on experience, right, are that which we call good, right? Justice in itself is good, right? Particular examples of justice are tainted by being particular, right? So what Nietzsche is claiming in Beyond Good and Evil, we have to, in a sense, get past the will to make this distinction, right? To treat our judgments as though they are just that, judgments, right? And be very, very cautious with regard to the kind of moral systems that we adopt. We're in a situation we can't help but adopt moral situations because we have to make choices, we have to act, we have to exist in a world, right? And the way that we do that is by, in a sense, mastering this world in terms of our values, our beliefs, and our judgments, right? This is good, right? But when we start treating our judgments as though they are more real, right, than that which we experience, right, we hit problems. So in section 42 of your copy of Beyond Good and Evil, right, on your page 39, and in fact throughout the second book here, what Nietzsche wants to do is talk about the free spirit, right, this new category of philosophers that he sees on the rise. Ones that are able to get beyond these value oppositions, ones that are able to do away with this didactic opposition between body and soul, appearance and truth, between good and evil, right? Between free and unfree, right? These are unhealthy assumptions. He tells us, right, that a new category of philosophers, this is section 42, a new category of philosophers is on the rise. Shall I be so bold as to christen them with the name that's not without its dangers? As I divine them, as they allow themselves to be divined, for part of their nature is to want to remain a riddle in some respects, these philosophers of the future might rightfully, perhaps also wrongfully, be described as experimenters. And the name too is ultimately only an experiment and, if you like, a temptation. And he's making a wordplay from a German translation there, right? Now, what he's trying to present to us as a notion of these beyond good and evil, new philosophers, new ethicists that are coming on the rise, is that they will not treat these value oppositions and philosophical presuppositions as though they are truth, right? They'll understand that their categorical understandings of the world are just sort of metaphors, ways of looking at the world. My truth is my truth. This is how I apprehend the world, right? These are judgments that I make. So really the way to do morality, right, is to, well, first off, do it passionately, right? Remember, the tension of spirit is very important to Nietzsche, right? It's important that we care, that we passionately believe that which we claim that we believe. That's how we get the most meaning out of our lives. Secondly, right, what it will do is understand that our categories, our concepts are just like the Buddhist raft, right? The raft gets you from point A to point B, right? It's handy, right? As is mathematics, as is science, as is religion in some ways, right? These are handy ways, healthy ways of thinking about ourselves in the world, right? And thirdly, right, insofar as these categories are not permanent, as they are not essential, enduring forms of truth, right? What the new category of philosophers will do, rather than positing good and evil as a form of truth, and evil must be opposed, what this new category of philosopher will do is, in a sense, experiment. Right? They will, in a sense, just try out values, try out judgments, to see if they can be lived in a healthy way. Right? So rather than just basely and dogmatically accepting the conceptions of good and evil, because if you notice, all of the philosophers that we've studied in this class call the same sorts of things good and the same sorts of things evil. We've never really questioned these ideas. So Nietzsche is criticizing these philosophers as theorists who, in a sense, beg the question. Right? So when they engage in their theory, it's kind of like me coming up with an excuse line. You tell me what you want to do, and I'll find a way to philosophically and rationally justify it for you. Right? That's dogma. It begs the question. It's not real philosophy. Right? So what Nietzsche wants to claim here is that the new category of philosophers are going to be ones that try out their ideas, that try to live their ideas, and if they turn out to be healthy ways of living our lives, then we accept them. If not, we don't oppose them, right? But we just disregard them. We discard them, right? So once the idea has gotten us from point A to point B, right, we can say that yes, it was handy, right? But we don't revere it, right? We don't hold on to it, right? Now, Nietzsche is one of those, an old professor of mine had a beautiful term to describe what Nietzsche is trying to oppose here, right? It's categorical sclerosis, a certain hardening of the categorical understandings of living our lives and ways of understanding the world, right? What Nietzsche is claiming here is that these rigid ways of looking at the world can only hurt us, whether it's the soul or truth or what have you, our notions of good and evil. We need to get beyond good and evil. Thank you.